It seems wired earbuds and in-ear monitors are part of a dying breed, with phones and other tech devices going forward with removing the headphone jack and pushing their own given flavor of wireless earbuds. But at least to me, the wireless buds never live up to the same level of audio fidelity of something physically connected. And for something in a comparable price range, the 10P ones may just be the best bang for your buck. For the 10P ones, there is not too much that comes out of the box, but I will admit the box and presentation is top notch. I don't have the box anymore, and I know I threw it out when I was clearing out stuff and did not realize it until I was searching for the box to complete this review. But as you can see from the stock photos, tin HiFi does give off a feel of luxury, and just about everything that comes in it gives off the same feel. Inside, you will find a carrying case, a wide selection of tips from silicone and foam, the wire to connect your IEMs to your given device, and the IEMs themselves. For the case, it's made out of a pleather material for the outside and a nice soft suede or microfiber-like material to ensure the P1s are safe from scratching. This case does have a little pocket as well to hold any extra tips from the time you damage or lose any of your active ones. And to hold it all closed is a magnetic system built into the case itself. And this case is nice. It looks good and it feels good, but it's not made for transport. First off, this case is too big to fit in a pocket comfortably, coupled with its sharp edges, and it just doesn't work with the pocket. You are better off throwing it into a backpack, but be aware there are only magnets holding it closed, so it can be shaken open with a good bit of effort, or pried open by something messing with it. But on the bright side, it does look good if you're keeping it on your desk or on a shelf. And as for the wire, it looks good, and I like the raw copper look. It's unique and eye-catching without pushing it over the line. And there's even a little glass bead on the top half to cinch the wires down for an extra subtle layer. The length also leaves plenty of slack so you don't have to worry about it getting pulling on the wire while being active. There's only one real complaint with the wire, and that's the braiding on the bottom, and it's very loose. It just feels sloppy. It also doesn't make sense why tin HiFi chose this wire when they have chosen wires of better quality in the past, such as the tin T2 and tin T3 wires. Good news though, if you don't like the wire, you can change it for another one. Just make sure you get a wire with the MMCX connection. Now for the IEMs. They do look good and they feel good too. The monitors themselves have a nice clean polish to them, accented by a matte triangle portion on the outward face. And I do love the look and the bit of heft they have. It just looks and feels good in the hand as well. There's nothing to complain about in this area. And I also find it funny that they look like a golf club too, which is very true. And while the 10P ones look great and all, it means nothing if its comfort was sacrificed for its beauty. I'm happy to report that I found no issues when wearing them for hours on end. The wires wrap around your ear, relieving the weight of the P1s off your ear canal, and if you're using them foam tips, which you should be, the comfort is some of the best. Like I mentioned earlier as well, the cable is also plenty long enough to ensure that there's no tugging while being active. Top marks across the board here. And before we dive into the sound quality, let's take a look at what is packed into the 10P1. We have a solid frequency range of 10 Hz to 40 kHz. Powering it should take about 5 milliwatts with a max of 10 milliwatts. Impedance is about 20 ohms, give or take 15%. A small note about the impedance, it will take a bit of power to make these IEMs work. My S8 Plus does the job well, but I do have to crank the volume up quite a bit. But I just wanted to put that warning out there because I've heard other people having the same issue when trying to use the 10P1s on a phone. And as for the drivers themselves, in the 10P1s they have a 10mm planar diaphragm, something quite unique to in-ear monitors. Traditionally what you will see is a dynamic type driver, where there's a thin circular diaphragm with a magnet at its core. Behind the magnet is a wire coil, and when the wire cord is powered, it causes the magnet to move back and forth, allowing sound to be created. This type of design would be built in a cone type fashion and aims the noise primarily in one direction. See, with planar drivers, they're a bit backwards compared to dynamic drivers. They start with a square or circular design for the diaphragm, and instead of a magnet built into the said diaphragm, it is the wire. The magnets are actually placed right over the diaphragm like layers of a sandwich. and as power moves through the wire, the diaphragm is moved back and forth as a whole. And funny enough, this creates the same volume output on the back and front of the driver. So be careful you have any open back planar headphones, especially when you're listening to certain things, and you may not realize how loud you are and who may be listening. Typically, this will create a very clear sound with ease when you see a pair of headphones or room speakers. The hard part is shrinking them down and fitting them into a small package like in-ear monitors. So how did Tin HiFi do? If I'd use one word, quisp. Tin HiFi has kept every aspect balanced across the board. The highs and mids are on point, having just about no loss in detail with hi-hats and guitar riffs. Same goes for the mids as well. I found no issue here. Even when there are songs with heavy layering from instruments across all tonal ranges, nothing gets lost, covered, or muddy. Throw in some vocals and the P1s can handle them with ease. Bass is also tight and accurate, not being punchy or overpowering. And I know some people prefer some extra bass, and you won't find these with a Tin P1. But in terms of accuracy, that will lead you to listen to a song and go, damn, I've never heard that part before. These IEMs will do the job. I cannot praise enough the sound and how tight, detailed, and balanced it is across the board. The sound stage is nothing to scoff at either. It's presented well with a solid amount of depth and not left to right like the Tin P2s. So I will admit, it's not the best in this department, but it does the job well for the IEM. In terms of the tip options we have as well, there are silicone and foam options. And just go with the foam ones. Between the two, it's not even close. And you'd be a fool to think otherwise, to be honest. The foam tips create a better seal for sound isolation. Not only that, but they're also so much more comfy, like I previously mentioned, than the silicone tips. Now, I know I've mentioned in the intro wireless is the way of the future, and these wired IEMs compete in the same price range with the big names like Samsung and Apple. So the P1s come in at $160 to $170 depending on where you can find them. So they are definitely not cheap. But they compete with Apple AirPods at $160 and $200 depending on the case type you get, and the AirPods Pros at $250. And Samsung's Galaxy Buds 2 at $150. Take those and compare them, and it's just, I know it's not comparing between wired and wireless, but this just makes the gap of the two much larger than they've ever been. And after all that, it comes down to a recommendation. And well, I have two thoughts. On one hand, the Tin P1s is probably the best bang for your buck sound experience you can get with in-ear monitors. And I know $170 is a high price, but the sound is tight and accurate with a soundstage that is quite surprising for something in your ears. If you can find something better near this price point, not only would I be surprised, but I will see what I can do to acquire them for further review. So no surprise that when it comes to Tin P1s, it comes with my highest recommendation. You still have a phone with a headphone jack though. This leads into my second thought, the headphone jack. If you don't have a headphone jack, it's obviously not worth it. And that's kind of sad to say because I think people should use these IEMs. And when the phone makers are now cutting what is considered a core feature to me, it hurts. I know there's options of a dongle, but that shouldn't have to be required on a phone, let alone one that costs you upwards of $1,000 or more. So it comes to no surprise that I say that manufacturers should bring back the headphone jack for people who use them. And the Tin P1 stand as a shining example of why the sound quality that comes well above its weight class. What are your thoughts? Do you want to try the Tin P1s? What are your other thoughts on the headphone jack? Is it a relic of the past? Leave your comments down below. And while down there, subscribe if you think we've earned it. Hit that notification bell as well to see when our videos go live, along with our weekly podcast, Pass the Salt. We have a Twitter at tech_4, the number 4_thought, and an Instagram at tech_4, spelled FOR_thought, if you want to spread the good word of tech for thought. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bitchin'.